colleague, Oleksandr Karpov, who is presented here, but he is unable to leave the country because of the military restrictions for the man. So you will see his short video, which he recorded for you. Please switch it on.
Colleagues and friends, my name is Oleksandr Karpov. Since 1999, I've been the director of Ukrainian Interbank Payment Systems Member Association Iryna. Since 2021, I became a co-founder of the Open API Group in Ukraine. It's my pleasure to address you today on behalf of the Ukrainian financial industry. We are grateful to the Berlin Group for inviting us to participate in this conference, not only as a guest, but as a representative of our country, which is a great honor for our team. We are grateful to the banks and companies, the citizens and governments of the countries who are supporting Ukraine. Thank you. Today, my colleagues will present information about the wartime Ukrainian payment industry and the status of the open banking in Ukraine project. Your experience and your knowledge has been actively used in the last 24 months in our project. Thank you again for helping grow the open banking ecosystem and supporting our fight for freedom. Thank you.
And my name is Iryna Petrova, as you may already hear. And I'm really happy to be here today as a part of the Open API Group team, but first of all, as a representative of Ukraine. And before we start our presentation, we would like to express our sincere gratitude for your support to Ukraine during this difficult wartime. Your words and actions give us hope, inspire our nation, and confirm that kindness and solidarity have no boundaries. The help which you provide to the Ukrainian refugees who have found a safe shelter from the horrors of this terrible war in your countries and in your hearts is a priceless gift that each of you is ready to share with us. We will never forget your generosity. Once again, thank you all for your support and faith in our victory. I would like to finish with the words of the Ukrainian Nobel Prize laureate Oleksandr. You don't have to be Ukrainian to support Ukraine. Support sanctions and stop doing any business with Russia. Thank you very much. And now, let's move on to the presentation of the Open Banking project in Ukraine. A brief agenda of what we'll be talking about today. I will cover the first 3 items and Olga will proceed with the other 2. So, Open API Group, who we are. We were established in 2021 and unite 6 professional associations of the financial markets of Ukraine. These are 2 banking associations, insurance, credit unions, financial companies, and Blockchain Association of Ukraine. And the main and common goal of the group is the development of standards and rules for the operation of open banking in Ukraine in accordance with the requirements of the law and the market needs. Here you can see the members, the group member structures. As you can notice, they are mainly Ukrainian banks, payment service providers, international payment systems like Visa and MasterCard, associations, and of course National Bank of Ukraine. So what are the main tasks of the group? The first is the creation of a platform for discussion and exchange of ideas between the market participants and the state. The second is the increasing the level of knowledge of the open banking of the group members. For this purpose, we hold a regular meeting of the group, and we also organize the international conferences in open banking and global payments where we invite the experts in open banking from Europe and from Ukraine who exchange their knowledge and share their expertise with our participants. Like, for example, last year we invited our dear friends from Berlin Group to our conference, Global Payments Week, which was online, of course, and we carried it out right down from the bomb shelter. The next task is the cooperation with the National Bank of Ukraine in order to initiate some changes in the existing regulations or creation of the new regulation for the open banking development and function. And the last but not the least, as I mentioned before, the development of standards and rules for the operation of open banking in Ukraine. A few words about the current state of Ukrainian banking and digital landscape. When Ukrainians were forced to leave the country to escape war and faced the realities of some European countries, they found out that Ukrainian banking services are developed quite well, and some of them are really even much better than European ones. For example, 96% of all the Ukrainian banking customers can remotely open the digital card, use it in their Apple Pay or Google Pay wallets to pay for services or goods or to transfer money from card to card. And all these functions are available in most banking mobile applications, which are increasingly replacing banking branches because there are really a lot of functions available in these applications. You can, for example, open the account, make a deposit, get or increase your credit limit, transfer money from an account to an account within your bank or to another bank, etc., etc. The function of Bank ID online verification is a widely used type of remote authentication which allows Ukrainian customers to use all these online banking services. On this slide you can see on the top the logos of top 10 Ukrainian banks who provide all these functions in their banking mobile applications. The first logo is the Privat Bank. It's a former private bank, and now it's 100% state, and it has about 50% of the market. The next logo is the Neo Bank. It's named Monobank. It is very popular in Ukraine between young people and advanced banking customers. And the third is the oldest state bank, Ashad Bank. It has about 14% of the market. You may have already heard about the Ukrainian platform of the digital state services, which is named DIA. And it was created by the Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine. And it became critically important during the wartime when some people had to leave their homes without any documents at all. Because, for example, their homes were just totally destroyed as a result of the missile attack. But if they had their smartphone with them, they had all the necessary documents in it, in DIA. So you can see the main types of the services which are available in DIA. These are, first of all, digital documents like passport, tax ID, children's certificate, driving license, pension SID, etc., etc. You can also use the electronic signature, which has absolutely the same legal force as the real one. There are also many services for business, for private entrepreneurs, national voting, etc. So if you are interested, you can scan this QR code and see the short video of the totally new services which will provide to Ukrainians during the wartime. But please do it after our presentation. Let's see what changes in the payment infrastructure we have seen since the beginning of the war. You see the numbers, I will comment just a few of them. So the number of ATM decreased by 15%, which is understood because the big amount of them are situated on the occupied territories. POS terminals, despite the fact that some of them are also situated on the occupied territories, increased slightly, and the 37,000 POS terminals, in them there is a function of cash out, which was a real help for Ukrainians during the first days of the war, when banks were unable to upload ATMs with cash. And people could have a little amount of money. It's not a big amount, about 150 euros, but they could have this money from the POS terminals, which situated in the supermarkets, gas stations and stores. The function of cash out grew 9 times during the war. Merchants have also downloaded about 40,000 tap-to-phone applications to accept payments from cards. Thus, as you can see, the payment infrastructure grew steadily even during the war. And by the way, even during the blackouts, when Ukrainian cities were without electricity at all, the availability of payment infrastructure ranged about 52 to 79%, which is not bad for the country in war, in fact. A few words about the Ukrainian payment strategy. On the 1st April this year, National Bank of Ukraine announced the migration to the new generation of the system of electronic payments, SEP 4. Now banks have a direct connection to the SEP. Non-banks have connection through the banks, but they have their own unique IBANs. Requirements to the term of the payment now is 2 days, but the real average time is about 2 hours. Starting from the second quarter of 2024, the payment must be processed by the sending bank and the receiving bank and credited to the account of the customer that is available to the client in no longer than 1 hour. And in 2025, the instant payment system will be launched. So initially for transfers and later for POS transactions and e-com, and the term of the payment will be no longer than 10 seconds. So I'm done with my part, thank you very much, and now I give the floor to Olga.
Glad to meet you here today. I'm Olga, Levandovska, member of Open API Group. I basically joined the group as a person who got the knowledge working in European projects, but then I'm the person who has to share now this knowledge from my own country, and it's a pleasure for me and an honor for me. Iryna has introduced the Ukrainian digital landscape and let's say showed you how we progressed during all this time. I will disclose more about one of the milestones that we have in our payment strategy, implementation establishment of open banking framework. But before starting, I want to touch the topic that I cannot touch, the Tango actually. So if you ever been to a Tango event which is called Olga, you probably know that there is a code of conduct in Tango, which is called Códigos. And it is quite strict actually. It helps couples safely enter the dance floor. It helps couples safely dance and enjoy the tango. So this is how it works in our life. everything, I mean, sometimes we don't need regulations, but sometimes we need, and regulation helps us keep safe. Yeah. Okay, so I suggest we move on. And let's look closer at the open banking strategy and the regulation background. Payment service law was implemented in 2021, quite a while ago. However, it entered into force in a year. It took some time to adopt the legislation. It took some time to, let's say, reshape and reduce satellite provisions, considering the realistic timeline in war conditions, in conditions of martial law. But anyway, we managed to introduce consent management principles this year and align the legislation with the GDPR, which is important. As it comes to the market setup and the vision, everything has started from the open banking concept, which was developed by the National Bank of Ukraine last year, in tight collaboration with Open API Group, of course. We helped having a lot of connections, yes, at the Ukraine. We gathered together the most active and important market players for open discussions, and I believe what we have at the end as a final result will really help us to implement it successfully. Yeah. Concept includes general goals of the open banking ecosystem. It actually drives the market to provide payment services in the most efficient and the most secured way. It includes differentiation between the mandatory services and commercial services. New market players were introduced by the concept as agents and technical providers, hubs, and it promotes high level of security and AML requirements. So, there are specifics, in the local market, as our colleagues from Israel said. You should always adapt. Of course, we are the followers of the Berlin Group standard, as Ukraine is highly incorporated and integrated into business with Europe. A lot of Ukrainians now live and work in Europe, so that was not a discussion actually. That was just a smart choice. But there is a specific in place, yeah. So I will share with you briefly what are the keynotes here. In the scope of mandatory payment services, we decided, and it's logically, to include the standard services as payment initiation, account information, and funds confirmation. These are the following endpoints that are included as mandatory services. Some exceptions we have, but they are mostly related to availability of account transaction history till some days as a mandatory services, and the longer, let's say, account statement will be available as a commercial offer. Speaking about the basic components in API architecture, I have to say that we follow the international standards and best practices in secured connection, in protocols, in data exchange standards or message formats. That is not a secret. Regarding the SCA, we adopting the legislation, and we will include all these common SCA approaches that are widely used in Europe, of course within exemptions. Yeah, that is how it should be. And if we look closer to market participants, let's say ecosystem players, then you might notice that new players were introduced by the concept, and these are TPP agents and the technical service providers. These two participants are not required to be licensed, yeah, and not required to assign some specific TPP role, but they can join the ecosystem, and let's say we see a huge potential in our local market for bank and non-bank financial institutions to act as account service payment providers in tight collaboration with the standard regular TPPs and their agents. Moreover, we see the potential and high interest from banking institutions to act not only as providers of payment services and financial data, but as a consumers as well. And that is that might bring us a lot of transactions at the end. And if we talk about the balance between demand and the supply of financial and payment services, I would like to pay your attention to that in a collaboration with the participants, we really want to stress that the market potential is very huge, and I would like to share some facts with you on that. There are 65 banking institutions registered in Ukraine, and 10 times more financial institutions. We have one full-fledged neobank that provides full scale of financial services, and two regular banks actually, but in fact they also provide quite high level of financial services together with quite progressive UX, yeah, so they compete somehow with the neobanks. Top 10 banks mentioned by Iryna today, they support public APIs and share information about the services, how the bank works with their customers. And additionally, they expose partners' API to their business customers. So we can say the market is quite matured and well prepared to implement the open banking infrastructure. And finally, let's look at the implementation roadmap. It looks realistic, not optimistic at all. And I believe we will learn from Israel how to speed up a bit, and despite the threats and the challenges that we have. But as you can see, it consists of the three stages, and currently we are on a preparation phase and put our efforts into adaptation of the specifications. Meanwhile, the NBU should approve the concept. But during the next year, the pilot, the testing will start. So this will be the year to collect the feedback from the market, to adjust, amend the documentation, and this will be the year for the National Bank of Ukraine to finalize all the needed provisions and regulations regarding the SCA, regarding the general, let's say, rules of the TPP registration, etc. Then in 2025, we will use all the results, and we are going to a leaf pilot. At the beginning, there will be no TPP authorization, yeah, and during the first 2 quarters, the registration process will start. That will allow us also to end the pilot with a full process end to end. And the rollout to go live is set for the second half of the 2025. So, despite the war, the market is ready to reshape the infrastructure and move towards the open data economy. Despite the war, we see the huge potential, and of course, open finance services play an important role in our country's development strategy. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your support, and I would like to thank especially to organizers of Berlin conference for your help, for your good vibes. Yeah. You keep us. Contribute to activities of Open API Group Ukraine, please approach me or Iryna directly or follow us in business and social networks. Thank you.
Thank you.